Hi, everybody. My name is David Mashian, and I'm Dave the Real Estate Guy. Today, we're going to cover Chapter 10 of Commercial Real Estate Brokerage Boot Camp. We're going to focus on your pipeline. So, your pipeline is your activities and your business prospects. So, you need to track what's your pipeline, right? You need to know what's going on. Is your activity going to lead to future success? So, you need to do this because just like a grocery store uses a cash register to track its sales and inventory, you need to track your sales, your proposals, your meetings, your calls, and you need to track them to make an effective business management decision. You need to track all your activities to measure your success. When I was starting up, we would have a weekly meeting with my manager, with the other sales agents in the same meeting, and we would see who's making the most calls, who's making the meetings, who's making the proposals, how many listings are they getting, how many closings. And you could track it. You track it compared to other people. You'd see other people doing better or worse, and you know, hey, why am I not doing it? And guess what? It comes down to if you're making the calls and those calls lead to meetings and you're making proposals, that's going to eventually land you listings and more sales. It's so simple. And this is what I'm going to show you next. The first step to getting a listing is making calls to property owners. I know this may sound crazy. People avoid the phone, but get on the phone. That's where your money is. That's your cash register. People avoid it, but that's the power. And it's even more powerful now than before because people are addicted to emails or texting. Hardly anybody calls. You're going to distinguish yourself by using the phone. You're going to be able to get those meetings. It's super important. This is the brokerage continuum that I just described. Okay? You're going to start with cold calling at the bottom, right? After the first cold call, it's no longer a cold call, by the way. It's a warm call. Whether they remember you or not, it's a warm call. Okay? So it starts by calling. And you see how it's wide? That means you got to make more calls to get meetings, right? So the point of the calling is to get the meeting. It's not to sell anything. It's to get that meeting. And on the meeting, the point of the meeting is to talk to them, to do a proposal for them, to discuss possibly selling their property down the road, right? So you got the meeting, you create rapport, you're telling them about yourself, your company, what you do, your listings, etc. And then you say, you know what, I'll get some information from you. Why don't I get your rent roll, or what's the income on the property, what are the expenses, etc. And I'll give you an estimate of value of the property. And usually people have no problem with this because it's not going to cost them anything. But it's a proposal of what you think you can sell the property for. The more proposals you do, the more odds you have of closing, getting listings. At the proposal meeting, you present your proposal. And at the proposal meeting, you ask for the listing. Ask for the listing. Take a listing agreement already filled out. Take it with you to get the listing. Take a pen. Make sure that happens. When you got your listing, then you're working to sell the property. You haven't made any money yet, right? It only happens when you close the deal. So that listing, you market it like according to the marketing plan we discussed previously. You do everything you said you're going to do, and then you close. And that's when you finally get paid. So that's how the brokerage continuum works. It's very important to understand this because each step needs to happen in order for you to succeed at closing a deal. This is like a sheet that I use for track my calls. All those little circles, I used to check them out and put a check mark in there and say how many calls I did. That was my way of tracking calls. And you see it's Monday through Friday and my times. And I put down significant notes in there. Oh, I talked to Joe for such and such property. And this is my way of doing it. I like pen and paper. It keeps things tactile, more immediate. It's a very good method. I recommend it. And this is how I tracked my monthly activity. I looked at how many calls I made for the week. These are 4 weeks. How many calls I made, how many meetings, how many proposals, how many listings, and how many closings. And you could see the progression throughout the month. And you could see if there was a bottleneck in the system. Like if I was making hundreds of calls, but I made no meetings, then I'd say there's a real problem there. Why am I not making meetings? Am I not asking for the meeting? Believe it or not, sometimes people don't ask for the meeting, even though that's the whole point of them being on the phone. So you got to be aware of where there may be a bottleneck in the whole process and be able to track that and tackle it. Make sure you get rid of that bottleneck. So this is how I did it. I had my sheet where I did this. All right, everybody. We're going to go to chapter 11 next. Talk to you soon.